Mark Carney, as far as he's concerned, do you think he's sticking around after this election? Like, what is he doing? Is he just here to pretend to be the prime minister? Like,
He is the globalist in chief. He was working for the UN. He was in charge of implementing the DEI policies in the private sector and pushing big corporations to have a DEI department. So, he's working with the UN, and for him, the UN agenda is very important. Americans are not our enemy, and we need the tariff. If they impose tariffs, they will tax us. Trudeau and Carney and Poliev, they're saying, we will fight for Canada, we will impose tariffs, and we love you guys, we love our country. They love us so much that they will tax us more because tariff is a tax on Canadians.
yeah.
So
Why would you publicly ruin your own image? Like, imagine being Trudeau, you can't go anywhere. Everyone hates you. Truly. I can't believe he hasn't been assaulted, frankly. And I'm not calling for anyone to assault him, but people get assaulted for a lot less than ruining in a country for 10 years, right? Hey,
yeah,
Mr. Bernier, welcome to the MCGA channel. How are you doing today, sir?
great. I'm very pleased to be with you. Thank you.
Our audience is going to be stoked to see this. I can tell you that for sure. I actually have some recent developments to share with you shortly here, which we can get into about the Ontario election. Actually, I've been in the midst of doing some investigative journalism, which I think really ties into your removal, essentially, or disallowment from the PC party, or the CPC rather. But before we get into that, if you could just give the audience a brief synopsis on the PPC party and its formation and why you formed the party.
Yeah, I'll try to be a little bit short, but yes, I was working in the private sector in Montreal for 19 years in the financial sector. I was VP for an insurance corporation and bank. So in the banking sector, in 2006, I decided to jump into politics with Stephen Harper for a smaller government, a government that will respect provincial jurisdiction and more autonomy to provinces with lower taxes and a smaller government. As you may know, when Harper resigned, I did run for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada in 2017 and 2018. So I didn't win with 49% of the vote. And after 15 months after that leadership contest, I did have a meeting with the leader that was elected, Andrew Scheer, and I wanted for the Conservative Party of Canada to take some of our ideas, my ideas. These ideas were very popular during the leadership contest for the election in 2019. And at that time, Andrew Scheer told me, "You're right, Maxime, your ideas were very popular with the members of the Conservative Party of Canada, but they are not popular with the general population. And my goal now is to be prime minister, so we won't take any of your ideas for the next electoral campaign." And actually, he was right. And I said he was right. He didn't take any of our ideas during the election in 2019. And we decided, and I resigned. I said, this party is morally and intellectually corrupt. They're not conservative. They're just conservative in name. They don't want to speak about real conservative family values when they are not that popular. So they're doing politics by looking at the survey and polling, and they are not leading, they are following the public opinion. And we know that the public opinion for a long time has been manipulated by the leftist media and the liberals. So I resigned. We created the People's Party based on the platform that we had during the leadership contest, based on four principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And in 2019, we had 1.6% of the vote. We almost triple our score in 2021 with 5% of the vote. And now the election will be called maybe in a couple of weeks. The People's Party will be there. And our goal is to double our score from 5 to 10. And we have candidates all across the country, and we are very different than these other establishment political parties because we have one platform, We are speaking about bold ideas, bold reforms, and it's always the same platform at every election. We don't do any polling and focus group. We have a strong vision for this country. And what I will say at the next election, that will be the same thing that I said in the election in 2019 and 2021. And now, the more we speak about our ideas, the more popular they become. That's a good news. So that's the People's Party. We are doing politics differently, based on strong ideas, based on more freedom, less government, and against the woke ideology. We are putting our country first and Canadian first. That's not an empty slogan. That's the reality, because we want to withdraw from the Paris Accord. We won't participate in the World Health Organization. We will cut foreign aid and bring all that money home here in Canada for Canadians. So that's the People's Party. And that's why, I really like what I'm doing, because I'm fighting for Canadians, and more people now know that we exist and they're ready to vote for us.
Yeah. You hit it all on the head. I mean, it's hard to argue with any of that. And beyond leftist propaganda, there's really nothing else that can argue with that. Full disclosure, I did vote for you in 2019 and 2021.
Thank you.
Which is why it's kind of surreal to even be speaking with you. But your platform, your policies, they certainly strike a nerve. It's inarguable that your vision is unwavering. It truly is. Now, with regard to the Conservative Party and this upcoming election, just personally, I had watched, I'm a complete political dork, so I watched the House of Commons and the committees and all those things. And I had seen Poilievre in the House of Commons argue with Trudeau prior to his ascension to the leadership. And so that had given me some faith of authenticity with how he was speaking. I'll be honest with you, the dealings with the tariffs and the reaction, and it being as similar, if not verbatim, from the Liberals, have swayed me to being undecided in this upcoming election. I think that's the case for a lot of people. I don't know if that is what's going on with the polling recently, but that's just my position on it. Now, with regard to your 49% that you had received in the federal election, I spoke with Jim Carhalios of the New Blue Party a couple days back, and he had blown my mind about how the provincial political parties work and the lack of laws and rules surrounding those elections. And I was just curious if that is the case with the federal elections as well, as far as the leaderships are concerned for those, or is that just provincial?
Yeah, my experience with the Conservative Party of Canada when I was running for the leadership of the Conservative Party 2017, 2018, as you may remember, I was supposed to win. Everybody were saying Bernier will win 85%. I had 85% chances to win. And at the last, after 13 ballots, Andrew Scheer won with 51 and I had 49. But what they said during that night, and the video is public, they said that Saturday night, they said we have a winner. The winner is Andrew Scheer, 51, and we destroyed the ballots. They said that night. And after that, the day after, in the front page of the Global Mail, they had a piece saying that, some irregularities in the vote. They were saying that at that time, the Conservative have about 250,000 members. And as you know, only the members only the members have the right to vote. And they had 260,000 votes. So what I'm telling you is that they created 10,000 votes to be able to beat me. And so the Global Mail put that, and the party who said, no, nothing happened, everything is good. And at that time, I wrote a letter to the president of the Conservative Party with a lot of irregularities in the process. a big 3 pages letter, and I said, and I had a lot of pressure to support Andrew Scheer. After that, the Saturday night, I received calls from, Rona Ambrose and also Mr. Harper, and they wanted me to be behind Andrew Scheer, and I said no, I will be behind Andrew Scheer when you will answer my questions about these irregularities. And I received a call from the head office of the party the Wednesday, and they said we won't answer your letter, and so I had a choice to be back with them and I didn't have any way to prove that they cheated because they destroyed the ballots. So what I did the Thursday night, I tweeted that I'm behind my new leader, Andrew Scheer, and I tried to work with him for 15 months, but nothing happened. And like I told you, I resigned, and that's why I said this party is morally and intellectually corrupt.
Yeah.
And that's why that was the best decision in my political life to create the People's Party without any compromise and fighting for real Western civilization values here in Canada.
Amen. That ties me into what I was mentioning to you before there. I went to go vote in the Ontario election yesterday, and I've never voted in an Ontario election. I want to know what I needed, right? And it turns out you don't need ID to vote in the Ontario election. It turns out you don't need anything really to vote in the Ontario election. So I didn't believe that. And I spent the last 2 days in my free time. I went to 11 polling places, and I only voted once, but I got to the point of attestation an additional 10 times with different fake names. And I filmed the whole thing, and I'm going to be putting that out. But you can literally steal in the Ontario election. It's a completely illegitimate election. The fine for making a fake vote is $5,000. And so if you're not Canadian and you have no concern with staying in the country after you commit this offense, you can hop on a plane and go before anyone knows. And so that completely dismantled any credibility to the election, at least here in Ontario. That is the case. I literally myself I was there at a couple today locally. And so based on what you're telling me, it seems like that kind of lack of scrutiny is applied to these federal races as well. Do you think that's the case?
But that was the case for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada.
Yeah, sorry, Randy.
Because there's no elections. Canada is not participating in that. It's private. It's the Conservative Party of Canada that is fixing the rules. And so, but they didn't respect the rules that they told us. They said that the process would be transparent, and it was not. But for the election time in Canada, actually, the good news in Canada is Elections Canada don't use any computer, or they are counting votes by hands. That's why we need scrutiners. But what I don't like is you need to have an ID to vote at the federal level. But if you don't have your photo on the ID, it's okay. So I don't like that. And also, they are promoting a lot of mail-in ballots. I don't like that. Actually, at the last election, Elections Canada said that they didn't count about 200,000 mail-in ballots. And also we have a couple of days where you can vote in advance. So our proposal for the election must be, you must vote in person. We must be able to see your face. You must have an ID with your photo and your address. And the day of the election must be the day of the election, the only day, and that day must be an holiday for everybody in this country. So everybody would be able to go and to vote, and no more mail-in ballots. So that must be, if you do that reform, the electoral process would be fair for everybody. But now the electoral process is better than what you just told me in Ontario, but we need to improve it for sure.
Were you aware of that in Ontario?
I was not. I will, I will look forward to see your video on that.
It is so shocking. The Elections Ontario officials didn't even know. And I showed up with a So I have my RSP form, took out all my information, put different names on it because my real name got stricken from the list the first time.
Yeah.
And literally that was it. That was it. It was incredible. And if they're doing that in Ontario, and if there's missing votes in party elections, I mean, how bad is it really, right? How bad is it really? Because again, nobody knows. Transitioning similarly, I just want to get your comment on it because again, this seems to be pretty popular these days. Forcing people out of elections with Ruby Dhalla. As your comment on that, how do you see what went down there?
Well, I'm not surprised, what she said. They didn't want her to run, and they find an excuse to exclude her. And so, and the Conservative Party did the same thing also during the leadership race, my leadership race in 2018, and they did that during the last leadership race. So it's a private club. I was not the candidate for the establishment when I did run for the Conservative Party of Canada. They didn't want me because I was asking the real questions and I had a real, conservative platform. And their goal is only to be elected. And, they don't want to do any reform. They want to be in power, and that's it. My goal in politics is to have this strong vision and, making Canada great again,
Amen.
pushing for Canadians and speaking about our ideas with passion and conviction. And, we'll have more support by doing that. But what happened to her in the Liberal Party of Canada, I'm not surprised. The private club said that they didn't want her, and they did what they had to do for that.
Yeah, it's wild. And it's funny too, leading up to that, there was I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but there's a buzz online of people joining the Liberal Party just to screw with that vote. I forget his Anya, the guy who didn't want to speak French. I forgot his name. They kicked him out pretty quick because he said he refused to learn French. But he was he was going to probably win. But it seems to be the case that they're simply just anointing Mark Carney, right?
But now the establishment has their leader, Mark Carney, and also the media. For the media, Mark Carney is the best one, and they are promoting him. So that's why I strongly believe that March 9, Carney will be elected. And as soon as he will be elected, he will call the election and use an excuse the trade relation with the US. And so we may have an election day in April, the second or third week of April, but we'll see. And I can tell you our party will be ready. We are working hard to have a candidate in every riding now.
That's good to hear. So you do think that there will be an election in the spring then with Mark Carney? Because I have a feeling, based on his mention of the Emergency Measures Act in passing, that they're going to use the tariffs as an excuse to delay the election out of 25. That's my fear.
You have a point there. I think that they will use the tariffs not to delay the election, but to have the election right now. Because if he delay the election, he will give more time to Poliev to destroy his image right now that he has with the media. So he has a kind of a momentum, and I believe that he will want to use that and say, as Trump said that he may impose tariffs as soon as beginning of March. So, and if Trump does not impose tariffs, there's no emergency. So I think he will use that to be sure. And, we must fight for Canada and, have retaliation measures and imposing our tariffs. So I have the other point of view. I think because of that, he will call the election sooner than later.
Lord willing, I hope you're right.
Anyway, we don't know. We don't
course.
know. We'll know it. And that's why, as the leader of the People's Party of Canada, our team need to be ready, and we will be ready.
I love to hear it. So we'll move on a little bit to recent news, I suppose, so to speak. I want to get your opinion on the $5 billion that we are now giving to the Ukraine. It is absolutely tragic, to say the least, that a stepping down prime minister can fly off to the Ukraine in the midst of peace talks between the United States, the Ukraine, and Russia, and say that we're going to support them until they win. And then $5 billion when we got 2 million people going to food banks monthly. How do you feel about that? How do you read that?
Yeah, it's very, at least, disappointing, but Trudeau is not the only one. Poilievre also said the same thing. For Poilievre and Trudeau, more debts will be great. The war, for another year will be great. Trump is right, and that war is a proxy war between the US and Russia. I said that in the beginning. I said that we must not participate in that war. I was the only leader saying that when all that started, and I said, Russian is not our enemy, that's our own government. And so, and Poilievre wanted Trudeau to give more money to Ukraine, and that's still the same. So both of them, they're globalists, and they're saying that they're putting our country first. Now the new slogan for Poilievre is Canada first, but it's not Canada first when they're giving more money to Ukraine, more ammunition to Ukraine to fight. When we'll have a deal, it's a question of days. We will have a peace deal that would be great. And so Canada is there and saying, no, go ahead and more war. Actually, it's crazy. It is. They're not working in our interest. And speaking about that $5 billion, we must say that a big part of that, it's money stolen from Russia. The Canadian government did froze accounts coming from Russia in the beginning of that war, and now they're using that money. That is not our money. It's money, it's Russian money. They're using that money to give that to Ukraine, a corrupt democracy, and for them to go on with the fight against Russia. It's crazy. It is crazy. And, it's another good example that when I'm telling people that Poilievre and Trudeau are the same on the most important issues for the future of our country. They're not working in our best interest.
It's hard to argue that. And as someone who I was a pretty big supporter of Poilievre at the outright part of me. The Ukraine stuff it's rough. It's hard to digest, and you see a lot of people trying to avoid that conflict in their mind, who are Canada first, who are right wing, who are pro Western values, who I think a lot of people, and I want to ask you about this too, because Jim had mentioned it and he explained it pretty well, and I'm sure you will as well. But a lot of people just think that they have to vote conservative. They're so, I mean, you understand they're terrified of having more liberal leadership as far as on the face value, whether the policies are any different or not. But there's this fear of vote splitting, and whether voting for you would be something that would change the outcome of the election, given these new polls coming out showing a meeting in the middle, so to speak, of almost of a support between the Liberals and the Conservatives. So if you could touch on that.
Yeah, these polls are showing that we, the People's Party of Canada, we are not splitting any votes. That's the Conservative. They are splitting the votes with the Liberals. And, that's why I call the Conservative Party a liberal-light political party. They're all the same on the most important issues, like I said. So if you and when you split something, if you split an apple, you have two pieces of an apple. But we are so different than the Conservative. We are not the same. The war in Ukraine, fighting climate change, we will withdraw from the Paris Accord. Poilievre wants, the equalization formula. We will radically reduce equalization payments to be fair for everybody. Poilievre won't do anything. I can speak with, the gender ideology. I said that in the beginning. We must stop that. The radical trans ideology. There's no such thing as a boy being a girl. I said that, I think, more than 4 years ago. So on the cultural war, the immigration, Polyev said that, he wants to have 250,000 immigrants every year.
Yeah.
And we are saying we need to stop that. We need to have a pause on immigration. We need to have a moratorium
Yes.
just, to fix the problems that we have because of mass immigration. So we are not splitting the vote with the conservative. We're so different. And so we'll see. But for me, both parties are going, driving into a wall at different speed. That's the only big difference between the conservative and the liberals.
Yeah, again, making points that are hard to argue, and I'm going to see that on the comments of the video for sure. Like, and I'm like splitting votes so much as whether you guys are different or not, because obviously it's clear that you do, but there is that fear that someone's one vote towards their actual values will keep the liberals in. But as you're saying,
Yeah.
what's the difference at this point, really?
Yeah, okay, but also go back to the history of our country. You have 8 years of the conservatives, or 9 years, and after that, 9 years of liberals, 8 years of conservatives, 9 years of liberals. The example when Brian Mulroney, sorry, when Brian Mulroney won in the 1984 and 1988, 1988 with the biggest majority in the history of our country. And he resigned in 1993, big scandal, and the conservatives were way down in the polls. And so they put Kim Campbell, a lady, the first woman being the leader of a national political party. And the polls went up with Kim Campbell. But, when the election was called, a couple of months after that, the conservatives were not able to stay in power, and they had only 2 seats from the biggest majority in the history of our country. They were able to keep 2 seats. So what I'm telling you, people are voting against the liberals. Yes, now Mark Carney is very popular, but during the election, people will see, and they are not voting for Polyev or for the conservative. They will vote against the liberals. And that's why at this time, I still believe that Polyev will be able to have a majority. That's, if you look at the history of our country, that's happening. And Mark Carney will be like Kim Campbell, and maybe he's doing better than Trudeau. He will be able to keep more seats than Trudeau, but people will vote against the liberal. And for me, I'm telling people, we are your insurance policy that we will keep Polyev in the right direction. We will keep him honest. We will support him when he'll be a real conservative, and we will shame him when he won't. So we are your insurance policy that Polyev will do what he told you that he will do. But actually, now he's speaking very well with nice slogan, but there's no meat. Where is the meat? I don't know. It's only fix the budget. But, we can fix the budget in 1 year by cutting a lot of spending, and that's our proposal. But for him, he will tell us that he will fix the budget in 4 years. He will keep all these programs. We will still have deficit. And people must understand that the deficit of today are the taxes and the inflation of tomorrow. So let's be serious about that. And that's why I think that people will look at us a little bit more during this election, and we'll see what will happen.
Moving on a little bit on to Mark Carney, as far as he's concerned. Do you think he's sticking around after this election? Like, what is he doing? Is he just here to pretend to be the prime minister? Like, no disclosures of his financial anything. He's in bed with the liberal government, with his multiple companies, friends, everything. What do you think?
He is the globalist in chief. He was working for the UN. He was in charge of implementing the DEI policies in the private sector and pushing big corporations to have a DEI department. So, he's working with the UN, and for him, the UN agenda is very important. So he will do like Trudeau. He will import the UN agenda in here in Canada. That's why it will be easy for me and Polyev to argue with him and destroy him on that. You can just have a look to his background, and he is a globalist. And I think that people are ready for a leader that will push our country and not the UN agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I could not imagine another 4 years of this. I don't think anyone else can, and I really don't think, I don't believe the polls. I saw that there was payments from the Canadian government to Nanos Polling and the other polling firms, whatever. There was receipts come up the end of last year to the tune of millions of dollars. So they're clearly funding these polls.
Yeah, and also, yeah, I don't believe the polls also on my side because they can use it to create a momentum. And I just want to give you an anecdote on my campaign for the
Please.
leadership in 2018. In the beginning of the campaign, I was not the first one. We had 12 candidates at that time. But at the end of the campaign, because of my ideas and our platform, I was able to be the first one. But when we receive a call from a polling corporation, and they tell to my people, we can do a poll and put Bernier in front, give me the list of your supporters and we'll do it. So, and we said, no, we don't want that, and we won't play that game. But you must look at the details of these pollings and what they did. And sometimes they're doing polls like that to put somebody in front and being sure that that person will have a momentum. And I'm looking at the polls right now about Carney, and it's a little bit like that. They're polling and they don't ask the questions to a lot of people, and most of them are in a region where the Liberals are very popular. So I'm not so. Let's wait a little bit during the campaign and we'll see the result. But they did that. Some did it to push a little bit Carney and to promote him. So we'll see. But for me, the real poll is the election day.
Yeah.
And we're going to be there at that time.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're bang on with that. That's my feeling as well, that it's just to make it, to legitimize his illegitimate campaign for prime minister. I want to ask you about that too. So the Governor General prorogued to Parliament. She's appointed by the king on recommendation of the prime minister. So we have essentially a puppet of the monarchy, the ultimate ability to shut down our democracy. Do I have the correct read on that?
Yes and no. It is what she did, or what the Governor General did. It's constitutional. Harper did it also in 2008, if I believe, just to be sure that he won't be defeated by the opposition. And at that time, the Bloc Québécois and the Liberals wanted to have a coalition, and to be sure to not have a non-confidence vote in Parliament, he prorogued the Parliament. But that's exists in our democracy. I don't like it, but that's part of, and they did that also in UK. But the goal to that is you can do it, but for a very short term, and that's why the Parliament would resume March 24, and we'll see. But that's why also Carney, for me, my point of view on that is Carney won't want to be in Parliament March 24 because he may have a confidence vote, but also he's not elected, so he won't be there. So I think it's better for him to call an election and do that as soon as possible, because now it's all new. And if we have an election, he will call the election, and that will be a very short election. The minimum is 36 days. That's why I said in the beginning, we may be in election the second week. The election day may be the second week of April.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, of course, the other parties, like the Conservatives, like you said, Harper had done it before. And yes, it's part of our Constitution, but it's just like the timing is so incredible, right? With the last minute tabling of the budget in the middle of them denying the SDTC documents.
Yeah.
$400 million minimum. You got Randy and the other Randy, and literally almost every single cabinet member giving themselves money, not recusing themselves in the middle of investigations that don't go anywhere. It's appalling that we seem to get like right there when it comes to accountability. which really seems fake anyway, and then they can just shut the whole thing down. And then what's to come of SDTC? What's to come of all those scandals? It's just gone. That seems to be the case, right?
Yeah, and these politicians must be accountable, and the only way for us, for the population, is our vote during the election time. They will vote, like I told you, against the Liberal. We'll have new members of Parliament. But that being said, I strongly believe that we must do an investigation on all these parliamentary committee investigation on all the frauds and things that happened during the leadership of Trudeau and the Liberals.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like you got Gilbo too, like recycle capital. It's so many things. Would you support reform of that system? Like as far as embracing Republican ideas. I really do feel like the way that we function is completely outdated and it doesn't represent the individuals, and a lot of people do feel that way. How do you feel about embracing a similar constitution as the United States has and actually giving the rights to Canadians, abandoning the monarchy and dissolving the Westminster system? Is that something that you're open to?
Yeah, I don't like the monarchy like you. The king actually is a globalist right now. There's maybe a way to change that instead of the governor general representing the king. It can represent the population. If we do that, we may have to reopen the constitution. That's why it is not in our program, but I'm not against that because I think that we must do a lot of bold reforms to first of all be sure that we're going to stop the purchasing our purchasing power that is going down, the fact that everybody is poorer. If you look at the last 10 years, our standard of living didn't go up. So we need to balance the budget, we need to stop that mass immigration, we need to do this bold reform. But it's something that I'm not against that. I don't like the monarchy. And but also what I don't like in our electoral system right now is the fact that it is the first past the post. And for us, I would prefer to have some proportionality in our electoral system. We had 5% of the vote at the last election, but we don't have 5% of the members of parliament.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can have, a kind of a proportionality, that would be good, but it would be very difficult because, as you know, that system is good for the two main political parties, the Liberals and the Conservatives. So, but it's something also that we must try to change in our country.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I really do appreciate you sitting with me. I know you got to go shortly here. If I may, I just have a couple rapid fire questions for you that
Yeah.
kind of stick out to me. Did you watch the Four Nations hockey tournament, the first one in Montreal?
I didn't watch the game. I just watched some part of it.
My question is about the anthem. They did a
Oh
Punjabi
yeah,
national
yeah, yeah,
anthem.
yeah, yeah.
What are we doing? There's schools in my area. They only do the Punjabi national anthem for the kids. That's it.
I don't like that.
What the hell?
We are a bilingual country, English and French, and and what they did also booing the American anthem. I'm not for that. The Americans are not our enemy, and we need the tariff. If they impose tariffs, they will tax us. Trudeau and Carney and Poliev, they're saying, we will fight for Canada, we will impose tariffs, and we love you guys, we love our country. They love us so much that they will tax us more because tariff is a tax on Canadians.
Yeah.
So, and by doing that, they will create a recession, and they're okay with that. When we have a recession, everybody is poor. So they're supposed to fight for us and put Canadian first. But no, they will impose tariff, and that will be us Canadians going to pay for that. The solution is not to do that. The solution is to reopen the free trade agreement with Trump right now instead of waiting in 2026 and putting everything on the table and having a real negotiation for a new deal. That is what Trump wants. He wants us to reopen the deal. And now our establishment politicians, they're saying, we want a fight, we want a trade war, and we will tax Canadians. We love you so much that we'll tax you more, 25%. What do you think about that? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's insane that anybody's accepting it. But
Oh, yeah.
it seems to me there's so much that I would have assumed when I was younger that would have caused some sort of uproar. Nothing. I don't know what it'll take, frankly. That 5 billion on Sunday, that should be people in front of Parliament right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
what will it take to change anything? Literally, like for the people, I don't know if there is anything that.
But right now, there's still too many Canadians who are watching the mainstream media. That's only one narrative. You know what I'm telling you right now? We are the real opposition. Liberals, conservative, about the strategy with Trump and the US, they have the same one. And they must have us to have another point of view, but they don't want that. So the media is the propaganda arm of the government. And so if there's another point of view, like during COVID, they didn't want us to have our point of view speaking about freedom of choice with an informed consent. But that's why, more and more, the independent media, these people, the YouTubers, you and other people, you are more, people are more looking at you for the real news. So that's great. I think that the end of the mainstream media is coming, and the future is, alternative media.
Yeah, I agree. And as a quick anecdote, which I think might shock you, shocks me, 70% of our audience is over the age of 45. So for that group of people, and we have like 30% that are over 65. So for those folks to be coming and avoiding CBC, avoiding CTV, it's promising, I think, for the future of how media gets put out.
Yeah, and I just want to give you an anecdote of that. My dad is 91 years old.
Okay.
And I was at home a couple of weeks ago, and my dad was watching in French Radio Canada. And I told him, why are you listening to that? That's not news, that's propaganda. And he looked at me and he said, Maxime, it's not for news, it's only entertainment. I'm laughing and having fun with them. When I want to watch my news, I go on my iPhone and I watch the news. He's 90 years old and he doesn't have any confidence in the mainstream media. So that's a good news.
That is very, very good news. Before I let you go, I have to ask you this. It seems as if all these policies from the Liberal government and, again, the agreement with a lot of this Ukraine, whatever, it seems like they don't have the interest of Canadians in their mind. It seems like whatever they do is antithetical to the good of the country. And I can't imagine why anyone would do that. Now, I spoke with Justin Trudeau's half-brother, Kyle Kemper, recently, and he made a great point that it seems to be the case that people act like this in these positions of power because it's seemingly the case that folks have something on them. Because otherwise, why would you publicly ruin your own image? Like, imagine being Trudeau, you can't go anywhere. Everyone hates you. Truly. I can't believe he hasn't been assaulted, frankly. And I'm not calling for anyone to assault him, but people get assaulted for a lot less than ruining in a country for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So, like, do you think that these folks have, is there something on somebody?
I don't know, but what I know is what Justin Trudeau is doing. I think that Justin Trudeau personally believes that everything that he's doing is for the good of our country. That woke ideology, that diversity, he is a citizen of the world. He is not a Canadian. And by being a citizen of the world, when he said Canada is the last is the first post-national country. So he believes in that. And also, you have the World Economic Forum who are pushing these woke policies, and for him, it's in line with his philosophy. So is doing that in our country. I don't believe that anybody is paying to do that. I believe that he strongly believes in that. He's a globalist, a socialist. So he's imposing these policies and legislation on us.
I almost think that's worse. I wish someone had something on them. albeit I do have my own suspicions
Maybe, we don't
that
know.
they do. But I really do appreciate you sitting with me. We're at 45 here. For the audience, and I'll speak for myself, it's going to be very hard not to vote for you in the upcoming election. I'll be honest with you. If anyone listens to this and listens to your words, not just hear the words, and actually critically thinks, I do believe it'll be hard to not vote for the PPC.
Thank you. And if they want to know more about the party, they can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, read our platform. You know, it's every ideas. It's about 2 pages. It's easy to read. And you're going to see that we are doing politics differently. And if there's a YouTuber out there or a podcaster, if you want me on your show, you know, like I said, I've been canceled by the mainstream media. So I'm doing campaign on social media. I'm very pleased that you gave me that opportunity. And maybe we'll have another opportunity to speak together during the election. So just be in touch with our people. You people can write at info@peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and you can follow me on Twitter. So yeah, and I'm fighting for you guys out there. I believe that we have the best ideas for this country. So if you like what I'm saying, I hope you support us. And I must say, if you don't like what I'm saying, please don't vote for us. We want change. We want pander to you. You like it? We're going to speak about that until we win the battle of ideas.
That's a great way to leave it, sir. It's truly an honor to have you on here, and I do hope we can speak again in the future. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You as well.